Good evening, everyone. Shirley here, and today we're going to be taking a look at our favorite portal-wielding thief, Artificer Xy'mox, on heroic difficulty in the new raid. I figured I'd step back a hair here since there's a lot of bosses in this raid, and go from here. I'm playing a Night Fae Arms Warrior for this fight with the Dreamweaver Soulbind. You could play Karain if you wanted to, if you just wanted to cheese really hard, but Dreamweaver is honestly good enough. Probably better in a lot of ways too, as we get more gear. But anyway, jumping right into the pull here. The on pull, I'm going to just be using my Warbreaker and not the rest of my cooldowns because I want them for the intermission phase. As we get more gear, however, this will probably change and it won't really be necessary. But this was like the first week, second week of kills, whatever it was, for this boss. And we're going to go ahead and deal with our first mechanic here, being the ring, which is going to pulsate either from the outside or inside, and we will be taking these portals, just like in Castle Nathria, to avoid it. And we're going to hit our first transition here during the intermission phase, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and use all my CDs to blow up these acolytes and the rest of the trash, basically. And we have to kill these before they get off any casts or anything. It's just a bad time. So this is why we didn't know how hard these checks were going to end up being, so we wanted to save cooldowns for all these guys and just blow them up. They go down pretty quick though, so like I said, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal with more gear. I didn't have my tier set for this, by the way. And as we go into our next phase here, we're going to slowly rotate around the room and be placing these portals on our markers that you see on the right side there. And that's because the range players are getting stasis traps, just like in Castle Nathria, and we're just trying to place those on the left side and never be in the way of our portals that we need to get to. So that's the idea of just slowly rotating around the room. And he's going to go ahead and cast his next set of Halo rings in a second here. But if we... okay, never mind. When we push him to 50%, we can actually skip a phase, but we're not there yet. This is 60%. Now, the tank mechanic's about to go off, and I'm going to quickly leap back here. You can do this every single time as a warrior. I missed it on the first one because I wasn't watching the tank timer. But if you're quick enough, you can just instantly heroic leap back onto the boss and kind of ignore that pull-in mechanic. And this is the point where the next set of rings are coming out shortly, but we're just going to tunnel the boss and phase him into the next intermission phase. And this is where all my cooldowns come back up, so make sure you're, not just reflexively popping all your CDs on Xy'mox himself, and you'll have them for each of these intermission phases, other than the very end of the fight. And we're going to go ahead and just blast all these guys, kicking any of these casts that we can, but most of them are going to go down pretty quickly. This is a great time for any Death Knights in your group to grip things in, of course, and just blow these up. Also, Xy'mox is taking like 99% reduced damage during this, so make sure you're not accidentally sweeping strikes off of him and wasting damage when you could be hitting these adds. And then we're going to have to go off on the side here and break out somebody in a stasis trap. You can just kill these to get players free. Somebody ended up stepping on one. I believe you can immunity them too if you get caught in one, if you're a class that can do that. But we're going to rotate around the room here to our blue marker and then spread out for this Hyperlight Spark Nova thing, which is these little circles around you. It's really small. If you have a lot of melee, it can be a little bit tough, but generally it's pretty easy just to spread out around the boss. And as a warrior, you can throw up a Spell Reflect every time that goes out just to help reduce a little bit of that damage. It doesn't actually reflect the spell itself, but, it's negating some of that magic damage. Now we're dealing with the rings, and as each phase goes on, we get more and more of these halos to deal with. And we're going to have to run out here, get pulled to our next portal from our tank, and avoid this next ring coming out. And right here, when the spark's coming out, I could have leaped back onto the boss immediately, but I knew the Spark Nova was coming out, so I wanted to just wait off on the side for a little bit there. That way you don't accidentally jump on somebody's head and, zap each other, especially if your raid's health as a collective is pretty low. And we're going to go ahead and send our Lust right about 25% here. For future reference, we do this way earlier, and you can skip most of this final phase, and as more and more gear comes in, that'll just get way easier, especially on Heroic at least. But we didn't really know for the first kill, so we popped it low. Luckily, I was saving my next set of CDs here just for the execute phase. We won't get an intermission anymore, so we don't need to save it for the ads or anything. And we're going to go ahead and get some decent decent execute damage out of our Lust Burn. Unfortunately, our tank moved it out of my Ancient Aftershock immediately, but, you know, you gotta rotate around the room to accommodate for the portals, so there's not much you can do about that. And as you can see, there's a ton of rings during this final phase. We almost screwed it up there with our bomb placement, but we ended up adjusting quickly. Spreading out here for one last Hyperlight Spark. A couple of people, unfortunately, got pulled through traps, but we're not going to really worry about breaking them out at the very end here. Just sweep them down if you, you know, want to pad on them a little bit. And down goes Artificer Xy'mox once again. This time for good, it looks like. I don't think he's teleporting out of this one. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.